Okay, so welcome guys to the first round of the Sevilla Open 2026. This is a tournament held in Spain, in the city of Sevilla, which is quite well known actually. There have been many candidates tournaments and even world championship matches, if I'm not mistaken, played here in this city. It's quite rich in terms of like chess history. And yeah, every year it has an open. It's usually now, like in the first weeks of January. I've never played here before, actually. I've played in many, places in Spain, but not this one for some reason. But this year I managed to come around to play it. I haven't played in a couple months. My last tournament was the European Team Championship, which didn't go so well. It also wasn't so bad, but like I lost like one or two rating points. Anyways, so I am the 19th seed in this tournament. I'm currently rated to 2374. And yeah, in the first round in the opens, you usually, well, if you have around my elo, you get paired way below your level or your rating range. And so I got paired with a player that is, let me check, 1846 from the the United Arab Emirates, I believe. I could be wrong about that, but I think that's his country. Okay, so let's see the game. So he played d4, always a bit annoying when you're playing like, well, always a bit annoying in general. Okay, knight f6, c4. I decided to play e6. I also play quite a lot of King's Indians. It's great to get dynamical games and sort of more unbalanced positions, but for this game I decided to play e6. I played knight f3. I played the Bogo Indian, which is this system with bishop b4 check. Very similar to its cousin, the Nimzo Indian, which is after knight c3, bishop b4. Um, but okay, bishop b4. Now there's two main lines for white, bishop d2 or knight d2, and they should lead to very different types of positions, because after knight d2, the point is that the knight basically is not so well placed on d2. So the idea here for white is to play a3. And the problem with this for black is that you sort of have to uh, give up the bishop pair, because if you go back, white gets the whole center with e4. And this is, also sort of a line. Like, I think d6 is supposed to still be sort of possible. d5 is sort of refuted, if I'm not mistaken, with like this e5 stuff and then bishop d3. There's theory everywhere, of course, but this is basically white's point, and black tends to, or almost always takes on d2, which is what I was aiming for. But he played g3. So this was the first moment where I stopped to think for a little bit, maybe like 5 or 7 minutes, because I was choosing between some ways of playing. Okay, so in principle, the the quote unquote refutation to this would be d5. And this makes sense because, as I said, the whole point for white is that you go a3 and force black to give up the bishop pair, which is something that black usually doesn't want to do involuntarily, or voluntarily, I should say. So, but here black manages to get d5, so if white ever goes a3, we just go back, right? And I was considering playing a position as such, this and this, and this line is very much harmless for white, but these types of positions are very dry and overall too balanced if you're, playing below and you want to win. So I was looking for something more dynamic. So then I was choosing between systems with d6 or with b6, and they're all very much possible. And in the end, I decided to go for d6. And I was trying to play in a well, my main idea is to go queen e7 and e5, but it depends on a lot on what he does, right? Because I still reserve the option to go for b6 and bishop b7. He went bishop g2, queen e7, castles, and e5. And actually, after playing e5, I thought I sort of like not blundered, but I thought my whole way of developing is just wrong. I thought it was just wrong because then I noticed he has this move knight b3, right? And the thing is that this bishop finds itself trapped a lot of times in these Bogo Indians, and this is one of those cases. And what I basically miss is that if I go e4, he just goes a3, which is anyways maybe not the only move, but um, because if you were to play knight d2, I'm relatively happy, right? Because I just play something like rook e8 or something, and when he goes a3, okay, I give up the bishop pair. But what I have in return here in these types of positions is a lot of light square sort of play, and this bishop is a bit shut out of the game. So this is interesting, but the problem is that he just ignores it and goes a3. Okay, and we basically both missed this. I saw it after I played e5, but thankfully he didn't see it at all. So yeah, the problem is that he just takes back on f3, and then I am just losing the bishop pair, and this is a version where I'm I'm losing the bishop pair in very poor conditions because the knights basically don't have good supported squares, and he has good control of the center. So I was panicking for a little bit, but thankfully he didn't think for too long before playing d5, which is just a big positional mistake, thankfully. It's also instructive that this is a mistake because it's like a natural move. White is gaining space, but the problem is that um, he's falling into a type of position after a5. He played e4. He's falling into this structure, which is typically what like we refer to as like a King's Indian structure. For reference, I should sort of point this out. And this is also another opening that I consider playing, which is the King's Indian. And it is basically like its trademark structure is this, um, where we get this sort of pawn chain, right? This pawn formation. And okay, this bishop on g7 a lot of times is like a problematic piece. And if you compare it to this position, this is just like a great version for black, right? And I can even give it up for the knight if I want to, but for now I don't because this knight is quite a bad piece. And this bishop will be a monster on this diagonal. So here I was already quite happy. And this is the reason why d5 back here is just a positional mistake. So this knight b3 move was very strong, but if you didn't want to do that, you should play something like a3. I can see that even the computer, like its third best move is knight b1, which is maybe instructive or maybe not advised for beginners. But yeah, this structure is just not good for white. So I played knight e6. I'm actually trying to remember the moves because the game wasn't transmitted on the DGT boards. Basically, in the opens, only like the first handful of games are transmitted, like have the digital boards that enable them to be transmitted. And I'm playing on board 19, which doesn't make it in this tournament. Okay, so knight a6. He played queen c2, and here I played c6. So I'm just going for this break. Another very possible break is with f5, but I thought that it made sense to play on the queen side. I was also considering this bishop g4 and then bishop d7, just also a very typical thing in these positions to try and provoke weakness. But okay, I was trying to figure out if this was actually some, who this inclusion helped more. And eventually I thought that it just suited white better, so I just went with c6, kept the options open for this bishop. And around here, like, the computer is giving a small edge, but I think black has a big positional advantage, and white really needs to find something to sort of change the the tide of the wave, so to speak. Like white needs to change something dramatically about the position. So what did he do? He went a3, bishop c5, and yeah, he should have went b3 at some point. He never did. And what the problem with that? Well, we'll see in a couple of moves that black always has this idea to go a4. Um, so what did he do instead? I believe he went rook e1, which was very odd as well. And he's just obviously inviting knight g4, which I couldn't resist. So I went knight g4, which is good. I mean, there's a lot of ways to play this, right? We could, first of all, we could just develop and sort of play a chill move. And this is completely fine, and probably try to play on the queen side like rook f c8 and then take on d5. This is completely fine. But there's that old saying by Lasker, I think, like once you see a good move, like look for better. And knight g4 and trying to break with f5 also makes a lot of sense in the position. So I'm just playing, like, I'm utilizing this bishop to the maximum. He goes rook e2, and I was taking my time around these positions because there's a lot of options. Of course, I realize that black is better, but like um, my instinct just wants to just make a move, like some move, like either f5 or cd5 or whatever. Just make some move by hand, so to speak, and it cannot be too bad. But then I'm always forcing myself to like calculate a bit and try to find a more precise move, which maybe is not a bad strategy anyways. So I was taking my time around these positions, and here, yeah, we could go f5 or we could go cd5. I was not too sure what I should do. So what I really wanted to make work, I ended up going cd5. What I really wanted to make work was f5, h3, and knight f2. And apparently it does work, which I did not expect, did not understand during the game. And yeah, in some position like this, I thought that I needed to take in order to bring this knight to life with knight c5. Um, and I didn't really see much else because whenever I take, he takes with the knight and starts sort of bringing some harmony to his pieces. Um, just for curiosity, I guess I can tell you that the computer is recommending moves like queen f6, queen f7, even queen c7, which is kind of funny. I guess he wants queen b6, but queen f6. Yeah, this didn't really cross my mind. I'm not sure whether he has a concrete idea or he just wants to play some slow moves. I think he intends to play queen g6 next, which is kind of funny, and just claim that white doesn't have any useful moves. Um, but okay, these types of sacrifices are always quite hard to evaluate because it's really more about that, right? You cannot calculate everything through until a win, like a material win or something. So you just need to evaluate the positions and like long term, and it's a bit difficult. Um, I went cd5 and he went h3, which also surprised me. And again, knight of 2 is best. And I refrained from it because I couldn't really make it work. And I thought, okay, if I just play any other move, I'm still much better. I ended up just playing knight f6 back. Well, first of all, from afar, I thought I always had this option in my pocket, but it turns out that it's actually quite bad because he has bishop g5, which I missed from afar because I just thought that at least if he goes h3, I would take and attack his knight. But it turns out that now I need to go knight f6 and it's bad. So then, yeah, I calculated knight f2 again, and I'm actually very interested to know what the computer says here. And he wants to go d4. Okay, yeah. See, again, this is an evaluation um, matter. So this is not about concrete calculation. This is about understanding that the position here is good. And it's not so trivial. Here, I guess that the F file is going to be really important, and white, like the harmony with white's pieces is not there, and black is just going with F5 very quickly. So yeah, I mean, once you see the solution, it usually tends to make sense, but it's harder to come up with it over the board. So I just went knight f6, um, which again keeps some advantage. It took with the e pawn, which is what I was expecting. I mean, in general, this structure is very bad for white. Okay, because you get this from a lot of Sicilians and so on. Basically, black is just gonna go f5 at some point and expand with the pawns in the center and on the king side. And white, you know, strategically speaking, just purely in terms of the pawn chain, he needs to go b4 and try to break with c5 at some point. But as you can see, this is never ever going to happen. This pawn on a5 and the bishop and the knight just clamp down these pawns too well. Um, so around here, I think I should have been a bit more patient. I went knight h5 and tried to go f5. Well, I'm saying I should have been more patient. Actually, I thought this was good, and it turns out that it is good. Or like it is as good as I thought. But the thing is that I took too long to play this, and I think the position is so good that you should try to make your conversion as clean as possible. So not like in these positions where you have a big positional advantage, I feel like you should try to win as cleanly as possible instead of just trying to find a win. So in this scenario, I think it would have been better to play bishop d7 like uh, quickly rather than make knight h5 work um, and taking a lot of time to do that. So the reason why I didn't want to go for bishop d7 concretely is that he has this knight h4 move, and he's just going to f5, and I'll probably have to give up my bishop. And of course, this is not that big of a deal. Like let's say like rook c8. This is not that big a deal, but I just didn't feel the need to give up my bishop here, right? I wanted to win and not give him like anything. Black is still better here. Like the position is great. Again, just because of the structure. Like his pawns are completely immobile and my pawn structure is just better. But I wanted to not give him anything, so I went for knight h5, which aims to play f5. And so now the thing with this is that he played knight f1, and I'm trying to remember now. I believe I included bishop d7. Maybe I should look at my game sheet. I believe I included bishop d7 before this. So what I was saying before that I should have played bishop d7, I ended up doing that. But probably the moment that I was referring to is that here I should have just played something like a4 quickly, or like rook c8 or something, instead of this knight h5. Um, well, and the computer is saying that this is a big mistake because of g4 and then knight g3, which I don't think I considered at all. Um, well, now I'm actually intrigued by this. Or did I go bishop b6 back here? Okay, actually, yeah. Okay, so I have my game sheet here with me. And yeah, move 15, I did go bishop d7. And he went knight f1, and I did go knight h5. So I'm just surprised that the game actually had a turnaround moment, because I thought it was quite smooth. And it turns out that it wasn't that smooth. So the computer's saying g4 and knight g3, which makes sense, honestly. Which makes sense. I'm not sure why I missed this. Like, I was taking my time here. I thought that the critical line was what he played, but I ultimately thought it was good for me, which was this knight g5. Because it forces me to go well, it doesn't force me, I can go knight f6 or something, but I wanted to go f5. And now basically there's just some stuff with 96 or g4 lying around, which I had to calculate. Um, but but wow, this is interesting. Knight g4 and knight g3, and this makes this makes perfect sense actually. And now he's just coming through with g5 and or bishop g5, and the knights are coming to life. Wow, interesting. Um, so that that was a miss, I guess. Against a stronger player, I'm not sure I would have gotten away with that. So f5, and he went 96. So yeah, the other line was to go g4. I cannot take because there's checkmate there on h7. But my point was to go h6, and he goes 96, and I take this one, and I go knight f4. It's a bit similar to the game. Again, I was taking my time with these positions because, for me at least, they're never that easy to evaluate because this pawn on e6 is always so annoying, and I'm not gonna be able to take it for a while. I need to go king h8 and then take it, or maybe come with around with the knight. And you're always worried that the knight is going to land on f5 or d5 or something. But okay, eventually I decided that this was good because, first of all, I'm probably getting this pawn right away, and his king overall is just very, very weak, and the f2 pawn as well. So his king is just weaker than mine. He went 96 immediately. I took, and now I had a big choice between e4 and f4. So one move makes much more sense because it closes out this bishop and it just prepares to take on e6. The other makes much less sense, at least like aesthetically, because I'm giving up all the light squares, and he's got this bishop which looks quite strong. But okay, this was my idea all the way back in knight h5, back in this funny mistake. To go f4 here. I mean, it wasn't my only idea. I thought e4 was also good, but I thought that this just worked concretely. So I went f4. So one of the main points is that if g4, of course, I have f3, and that is just completely winning for black because his king side is, you know, completely shattered. And I'll take this one, take this one. It's completely winning. What else? I'm threatening to take on g3, either with the pawn or with the knight. So for example, if bishop f3, I can take knight g3, and that's all she wrote, basically. Um, so yeah, you start calculating, and really that there isn't that much to see. I mean, this is basically the only move for white, and this was the game. Take, take, take. Not a take, take, take reference, but it could be. 93 sort of has to be played to blunt this diagonal a bit. And yeah, from afar, I was evaluating this position. Again, I don't think it's um, I think it's simple, but not that trivial to understand from afar that black is doing great here. I mean, if you take your time, it is, but what I'm saying is that again, this pawn and these squares are a bit cause a bit of fright. But yeah, it's the thing here is more about getting this knight into the action. So I understood that if I could get this knight to d4, or just involved g5, f4, I should just be winning. This rook is coming to f8, of course. Um, I mean, it goes without saying that queen e6 is just taboo because of bishop d5. So eventually I played knight c7 here, which is a nice move because I'm sacrificing the pawn on b7. Which, anyways, he shouldn't have taken. This was really a bad decision by him because now um, I'm just getting more my pieces into the action even more quickly. I mean, at any case, I'm taking on e6. So during the game, I was just basically considering this move, knight d5. I thought this was the only thing he could do, take, and I'll take with the bishop or with the pawn, like something. Let's say with the pawn. And yeah, I thought this position was pretty good for me, and I should have a lot of chances. So as a rule of thumb, like when you're attacking, the presence of the opposite colored bishops is really good for the attacker because like this bishop doesn't participate so well in the defense. And then his king side is completely shattered, of course. So the only downside to my position, the only thing that doesn't make it completely winning is this pawn on e6, which is a protected passed pawn, and it's very strong in the sense that it's always going to keep one of my pieces busy to defend against the promotion. But okay, it's not that big a deal in this position. If I can somehow get my bishop involved, like involved, it's already involved, but like in this diagonal, I can try to go for some mate. Um, yeah, I would need to win this position, which I don't think is that, uh, it's not that direct, but this was the only chance he had. Yeah, he took on b7, which really was too greedy. Rook f8. I already threatened rook takes f2 and then bishop e3, I think. And what did he play here? He played bishop d5. And, well, actually, let me check. Rook f8. No, he played rook f1. Yeah, 96, and then bishop d5. Um, yeah, even though the position is kind of similar, the game is just over here because the difference is that the knight got involved, right? And in the other one, it had to be traded for his knight. But here, he needs to take my knight with the bishop and lose this key defensive piece. Because otherwise, it's. I mean, I was gonna say it's even worse, but he resigned in like 3 moves, so maybe it couldn't have been that much worse. But the knight is just coming to d4 or g5 or something, so he just took it, but his king is completely open, and this is just over. And he played knight d5 in the end. Um, and now I guess you could treat this as like a puzzle black to play and win. It's really for the more beginner players, but it could still be interesting. I mean, I just don't think it's that instructive because they're like the position is just winning in and of itself, so a lot of things win. Um, but there's a forced win, which is okay. Queen takes h3. I will. I am revealing the big secret. So yeah, I sacrificed the rook, but now there's no stopping the mate. And here he thought for a long time, like 17 minutes or something. Uh, but there's really just no defense. So he played rook e4, and I gave this check. Kind of funny that the computer wants rook f6. I give this check, um, king h1, and I gave this check, and he resigned. So I thought that the game was really smooth, but apparently I made this big mistake here with knight h5 by allowing g4, which honestly is not that hard to see. So it's kind of funny or sad, either like depending on the way you look at it, that I missed this thing. But okay, at least it was just this. And yeah, as a whole, I guess the game was pretty smooth. So yeah, that's it. That was the first game of the Open. I'm going to do the recaps of more games to come, hopefully. And yeah, let's see how tomorrow's game goes. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one.